When she saw what she had done, gave her father 41. Lizzie Borden took an axe.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
We're back. You can see.
We're back. We're
Live.
back. We're back. We're back.
Yay. Gina's back. Woo woo.
I'm home.
Yes.
I'm
so
home.
happy. The Zoom thing does not work for me.
Not as happy as me.
That is true. But, maybe your uncle's still sick, though. So for the update. But
Oh, yeah. So my uncle, so it's actually, it's kind of good. So my uncle, he has a lot of issues going on. He has lung cancer. He has COPD. He is diabetic. He's in congestive heart failure. His kidneys are failing, like the whole thing. He's on hospice. And so he fell and broke his leg and his hip at the end of February. And so he has been unable to walk. And so this has kind of set him on like a downward spiral. So he had asked to go home to pass. And so that's why I was out there. I was taking care of him. But he has asked to be put back on his medication. He's still going to be on hospice, but he is exercising his legs. I'm not sure if he will ever be able to walk again, but he's able to sit in a chair now. So
good.
Yeah, so he sent me a picture of him sitting on the bed yesterday, and then he was sitting up in a wheelchair today, and he was doing like a little kind of bicycle thing with his legs.
Well, I mean, that's
but
good.
Even
news,
if
positive.
it's a few more months with him, then that's better than nothing. So yeah. So everybody that's taking care of him has been wonderful. He's got wonderful nurses and caretakers because I had to come back to work. So yeah. So
that's good. Well, I'm happy you're back.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back. I missed everybody. I didn't get to see my family, my friends. I didn't get to go anywhere. So I'm back.
Well, we're doing the third part in our series. So third part live. Yay. So we're going to be talking
about live. We need to do a live. You know what? Comment below if you guys would be interested in us doing a YouTube live.
I don't know how to do it, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out together.
I just know that we have a bunch of listeners in different time zones, so I don't know how that works. Yeah, if you guys would like us to go live, I think that would be something fun to do, just to do like a Q&A.
I would think that would be the easiest thing to begin with.
Just to have people ask us questions or, whatever.
But just remember,
it would be fun.
We're not experts, but
well, no, like maybe whatever. About us.
I might not be an expert in that as well, but you know what? We'll try. We'll wing it.
I'll answer him.
I'll
answer. You can answer for me. I'll answer for you.
This week we're going to talk about Lizzie Borden. On August 4th, 1892, tragedy shook the small town of Fall River, Massachusetts. Between 9 a.m. and 11:10 a.m., Abby and Andrew Borden were bludgeoned to death with an axe. Although they were most likely killed with a hatchet, which is a smaller version, not a virgin, a smaller version of an axe. Andrew was discovered in a pool of blood on the living room couch, his face nearly split in two. Abby was upstairs, her head smashed to pieces. Circumstantial evidence quickly focused on Andrew's 32-year-old daughter, Lizzie. She was the only one home at the time besides the maid, Bridget Sullivan. And I just want to say, it is amazing how many pictures are out there of the crime scene, even though it happened in 1892.
I know. It's crazy, right?
That they actually thought to go in and photograph and gather evidence back then regarding
Which sometimes we can't even seem to do that now.
Yeah, that's so true. And when I was reading about the different murders that happened in the Midwest for this series of 3 that we were doing, so if you haven't seen the other 2, go back and watch it. But they don't even have pictures at some of the other scenes. Yeah. So this event later became the basis for the popular schoolyard rhyme, which goes,
Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. And when she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41.
There's actually a second verse to that that's not too popular, but we don't need to go into all that. You guys can look it up.
But the thing that always got me about it is not true.
It is actually inaccurate. You are correct. Because
just rhymes.
It just rhymed together. I wonder if there was a way that they could have done it with an accurate rhyme. I should have thought of that. So Abby was actually hit with the axe 18 times, or the hatchet, and Andrew was hit 11 times.
That's enough.
So-
They don't need 40 and 41.
They don't. Nobody needs 40
No.
and 41.
I think that's
But
enough.
I'm wondering how, like, you know what? Maybe come back to me. Maybe I might have a rhyme for that later on.
Maybe by the time this gets edited and posted, she'll have written like a little rap or a jingle maybe.
Some sort.
And we can post it on our Instagram.
And like we talked about in the last episode, when is too much too much? Maybe make a comment down there about that. You know, when is it okay?
This could be it. This could be like
This is the one that puts the axe in the the
In the
nail in the
wax.
coffin. In the wax. The nail in the coffin for us. This was the demise. So Lizzie Andrew Borden, which I was very surprised. Her middle name is Andrew.
that's weird. I've never
Yeah.
heard her middle name.
Yeah, Lizzie Andrew Borden
Huh.
was born on July 19, 1860 to Sarah Anthony Borden. So I wonder if they took their father's
Maybe last name.
first names.
Oh, I thought maybe it was a last name, like maybe their mom's
Andrew.
maiden name or something. Or
Well, Sarah Anthony Borden, no, because it's Andrew.
oh, that's true.
Yeah, so
Oh, maybe that would be kind of cool.
yeah.
I'd be Gina James.
Gina, I'd be Shannon Joe.
Oh.
That's good. Shannon Joe.
I mean, yeah, that works.
Yeah,
That's like a
Yeah.
anything you could put anything with Joe.
Joe,
Gina,
yeah.
Gina Joe. Gina,
Gina
Joe
Joe.
sounds better than Shannon Joe.
It does. So she was born to Sarah Anthony Borden and Andrew Jackson Borden. She was the youngest of their 3 children. Her sister Emma Lenora was 10 years older than her, and she had a sister who had died before her second birthday 2 years before Lizzie was born.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it is really sad. She had a sister she didn't even know or meet. So Lizzie's mother, Sarah, died from uterine congestion and spinal disease at the age of 39.
I don't know what that is.
That is super young.
What is uterine congestion?
It sounds like
uterus
something
is congested.
I would think like maybe fluid,
I'm
like fluid.
I'm
like,
not making fun.
no, but no, it's like uterine. I thought maybe like in the pee, like it's backing up, like you can't pee.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know what
I'm
that
not
is
making
either.
fun, guys.
So-
Honestly, I'm just slap happy right now because I'm so tired.
She's like,
This is my first work, my first week back at work. I was off for 3 weeks. I'm just a little slap happy right now.
and it's Friday. It's the end of the week.
Yeah.
But 39.
But
that's
yeah, if
super young.
somebody could fill us in on what uterine congestion
Congestion.
is, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe
Yeah.
it's where no,
uterine.
your bladder is what carries your urine.
Yeah, but it goes down the urethra, right? Oh, that's up for a guy, huh? Ooh,
you know how funny
where
this
we're not-
is? This is really strange. You know, Heidi and Dan just had a whole conversation about if men and women both have urethras
Do they?
on this last episode of Reform
And
Radio.
what did they find out?
Yes, they do. I
Oh,
believe.
okay. So that's where the pee comes out. Like it goes down the urethra. That's how it goes through the pee.
The urethra.
Like, what is it called?
The urethra Franklin.
The
Just kidding. That's what they called it. They said that on Reform Radio.
Do they see? And I haven't even watched that episode,
Yes.
so that's funny.
Okay. No, I'm thinking like your uterus.
You know what?
I'm gonna sound really stupid right now.
We're
Your
gonna look it
uterus
up.
has nothing to do with urine,
Uterine
right?
congestion. I have never heard of it either, and I'm wondering if it's pelvic congestion syndrome, a condition that causes chronic pelvic pain. What is uterine congestion? Pelvic congestion syndrome. Oh, I guess now it's called pelvic congestion
Okay.
syndrome. Occurs when varicose veins develop around the ovaries.
Okay, there
Similar
you go.
to varicose veins that occur in the legs.
Makes sense.
Wow, so it like kind of
Okay,
squeezes on
so
it.
it doesn't have
causes a lot of
anything to
pain.
do with urine then. Okay.
No, nothing
Okay.
at all.
Okay.
And spinal disease. But she was really young.
Wow.
Andrew was of English and Welsh descent and grew up in very modest surroundings. He struggled financially as a young man despite being the descendant of wealthy and influential local residents. Andrew apprenticed as a carpenter and helped build the house at 92 2nd Street, where he would eventually live with his family and buy decades later. He would later become an undertaker, and after taking a $1,000 loan, he formed a business partnership with William M. Almy. Both men were undertakers and prospered in manufacturing and selling caskets and furniture. By the 1850s, Andrew had moved on to property development and later became the president of the Union Savings Bank. He also served as a director for several textile mills, including the Globe Yarn Mill Company and Troy Cotton and Woolen Manufacturing Company, as well as a director of the Durfee Safe Deposit and Trust Company and the First National Bank. He was not a very popular man, since he did have to track down residents that were defaulting on their loans at the bank. So there was some speculation that maybe this happened because people were pissed off at him.
Right.
Because he'd have to track them down
Yeah.
to get the loans.
Yeah,
and,
that's not a very cool job to have.
and sometimes he would jump in, you know, how all of a sudden he came into property. He would buy property that was going into foreclosure.
Right.
He would know about it.
Yeah, of
so he
course.
would, you know, purchase the property, and people weren't very happy with him for that. The wealthiest families who lived in Fall River lived in an area called the Hill, away from the industrial part of the city. However, despite his wealth, Andrew was known for his frugality and chose not to live in this area. His family was well cared for, and his daughters received an allowance. They were always dressed well. However, they felt jealousy towards their cousins who lived on the hill. Their girls always dreamed of living in that part of the town. Also, the Borden resident lacked indoor plumbing, even though at the time it was a common accommodation and he could afford it. So I just feel like, you know, like some people get set in their ways. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need it. You know, when cell phones first came out, I got a
don't
house
need one.
phone. I don't need a cell phone. I don't
Yep.
need people tracking me down everywhere I'm at, you know, things like that. So I just think he had a hard time
Yeah,
adjusting
Yeah.
to the times. And also, when you come from where you feel like you didn't have a lot of money growing up, even though they were okay, well off, they had family members that
Yeah.
were really well off, you tend to hoard onto your money. You don't, because
Of
you always
course.
feel like it can go away at any moment.
That's
You
right.
worked really hard for it.
Yeah.
So I can see that. 3 years after the death of Lizzie's mother, Andrew married Abby Durfee Gray. Emma, who was older at the time of her mother's death, did not accept her stepmother. She would remind Lizzie that Abby was not their mother and that their mother was dead. This created a lot of confusion and feelings Lizzie had for Abby. Lizzie later stated that she called her stepmother Mrs. Borden and believed that Abby had married her father for his wealth. Lizzie and Emma had a relatively religious upbringing and attended Central Congregational Church. As a young woman, Lizzie was very involved in church activities, including teaching Sunday school to children of recent immigrants to the United States. Even though she was quiet and kept mostly to herself, she was well liked in the community. Bridget Sullivan, whom the sisters called Maggie, was the Borden's 25-year-old live-in maid who had immigrated to the U.S. from Ireland. The girl's previous maid was named Maggie, and they did not want to be bothered by learning the name of their new maid. So that's why they just called her Maggie. We're just going to call you Maggie.
So ridiculous.
It's kind of sad, and it kind of shows you a little how snooty they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lizzie did not have a very loving relationship with her father. One popular story is that Lizzie had recently built a roost for the pigeons, and she took time in caring for them. However, in May 1892, Andrew killed multiple pigeons in his barn with a hatchet, believing they were attracting local children to hunt them. Lizzie was really upset over him killing them, though the veracity of this has been disputed. And a lot of people are saying that they were raising them to eat them. That was
Right.
what they ate. So she knew they were going to die. She just cared for them. So the story kind of exaggerates the fact that,
Right.
you know,
but
she
maybe
was
that's
all mad
where
at
she
it.
learned how to use a hatchet.
She knew how to use it. That's for sure. Tension had been growing within the Borden family in the months before the murders, especially over Andrew's gifts of real estate to various branches of Abby's family. After their stepmother's sister received a house, the sisters demanded and received a rental property, the home they had lived in until their mother died, which they purchased from their father for $1. And he actually got guilted into it because they started giving him a really hard time because he was really, really frugal.
Yeah.
But the minute his wife said, my sister's in trouble, her sister's husband passed away, and so she was losing the house. So he ended up purchasing the house for the sister, and they're like, wait a second, you don't even give us anything. We don't even have plumbing, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Dad, like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So he said, okay, you know what, you girls are right, you can purchase this property for $1, and you guys have to manage it.
And that was probably even a lot then.
Oh, I'm
a
sure.
dollar was a lot of money.
Yeah. But he said, you guys have to manage it, right? A few weeks before the murders, though, well, first of all, they could not manage it. They did not want to be bothered with it.
No.
They were mad that they didn't have the property. But the thing is, too, is back in those days, you didn't go living in houses by yourself. You
Right.
had to have a husband. So even though he gave them this house, they they couldn't do anything
No.
with it.
No.
So he's, to rent it out, get rental property. They didn't want to be bothered with that. They didn't
No.
want to deal with renters. So they ended up, a few weeks before the murders, they sold the property back to their father for $5,000. So they made $4,999.
Yeah,
So I'm going to say that
pretty
was a
good
very
deal.
good investment.
Yeah.
Also, a family argument in July 1892 prompted both sisters to take an extended vacations in New Bedford. After returning to Fall River a week before the murders, Lizzie chose to stay in a local rooming house for 4 days before returning to the Borden residence. Bridget later testified at trial that Lizzie and Emma rarely ate meals with their father and stepmother. On August 3rd, Abby called for Dr. Seabury Bowen to visit and told him she feared poisoning given that Andrew had not been a popular man in Fall River. However, the doctor said it was probably due to bad food. He offered to take a look at the rest of the family, but Andrew, angry that Abby was wasting money on a doctor, ordered him to leave. And they had been sick for several days, not just one day.
Yeah.
A family friend later speculated that mutton, which is lamb meat, left on the stove to use meals over and over for several days was the cause.
So
what they
gross.
would do, and back in those days, there was no refrigerators to keep things preserved and fresh and keep them from being spoiled. So they would cook this mutton on the stove, and they'd use it for different things, like, or stew or whatever, but they would just leave it on the stove and they'd just cook it over and over again. That's meat.
That's awful.
I'm surprised they weren't sick more often.
I'm surprised they all didn't die.
But the funny thing is, and I have to say only because we talk about this at my job, is that back in the day, our stomachs were a lot more powerful, a lot stronger. I remember my grandma would make potato salad with mayo and mayonnaise in the morning. Boil the potatoes, make the potato salad.
Mayo and mayonnaise?
Yeah, with mayo and mayonnaise. Mayo and mayonnaise, right? Oh, mayo and mustard. Woo. You know what, you guys?
Sorry.
We're really sorry. You know what? Make sure to hit that subscribe button now. You don't want to miss more of these.
You don't want all of this.
Thank you. But the
Like
mayo,
and mayonnaise? Oh my god.
They're two
Not
separate
both
things.
of them.
I'm like, yes. Mayo and mustard. Mayo and
Like,
mayonnaise.
yeah, bitch, didn't you hear what I said? Mayo and mayonnaise. Listen to me.
Oh, good Lord. She would leave it out. She would make it in the morning, and it would
just
just
leave it
sit on
out.
the table all day. And
Yeah.
we would go and heat up tortillas, put a little butter, put the potato salad on there. Like, it isn't just potatoes with mayo and mustard, and we'd roll
Yeah.
it up, and we'd eat it all day long and never get sick. And now I can't even have 2% milk without sitting on the toilet for 3 days.
Yeah.
It's,
It's crazy. I just think that just shows you like the difference in our food. Like
what is in our food now?
yeah.
Because if I could eat that with no problems, but now I can't even eat a burger at McDonald's without having diarrhea.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that evening, Uncle John Morse, the younger brother of Sarah, mother of Lizzie and Emma, so this is their uncle from their mother's side who had passed away, visited the Borden residence and announced. He had not been involved in the girls' lives until about 2 years before the murders, when he began showing up at the Borden house for visits. He was allegedly there to discuss business matters with Andrew. Some writers have speculated that their conversation about property transfers may have aggravated the already tense situation. He spent the night in an upstairs bedroom. After breakfast the next morning, at which Andrew, Abby, John, and Bridget were present, Andrew and John went to the sitting room where they chatted for nearly an hour. John left around 8:48 a.m. to buy a pair of oxen and visit his niece in Fall River, planning to return to the Borden home for lunch at noon. Andrew left sometime after 9 a.m. And this is very important, the part where, they're talking about property transfers and stuff, because at this time, the girls are in their 30s. You got to understand, back then, they weren't married yet, so they were considered spinsters.
Yes.
At this time.
Yes.
Unable to find a man.
Yeah. That was a big thing.
If you're not married, right? No kids, no man. And so they weren't entitled to anything.
Yep.
So if anything ever happened to their father and Abby was still alive,
She got it all.
she got it all. The
was all
girls
her.
would get nothing.
Yep.
And they were really concerned with that because their dream is to live up in the hill. They have these cousins with all this money. They have a dad who has a ton of money.
Yep.
He wasn't the richest man in the
No,
town,
but it's something.
he had good money.
Yeah.
And so this tension was building over time, and the fight and them leaving out of town, coming back. And it was just this constant battle with their father.
Although the cleaning of the guest room was one of Lizzie and Emma's regular chores, Abby went upstairs sometime between 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. to make the bed. According to the forensic investigation, Abby was facing her killer at the time of the attack. She was first struck on the side of her head with a hatchet, which cut her just above the ear, causing her to turn and fall face down on the floor, creating contusions on her nose and forehead. Her killer then struck her multiple times, delivering 17 more direct hits to the back of her head and killing her. When Andrew returned at around 10:30 a.m., his key failed to open the door, so he knocked. Bridget went to unlock the door. Finding it jammed, she uttered a curse. What does that mean? Like she said shit or something?
Like, oh, fuck.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
exactly what she said.
Okay. Okay.
What was a popular curse word back in 1892?
I don't know.
Hold on a second. Let's see what would
Hot
be.
diggity dog. That's
Bloody and bugger.
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 Okay, so she probably said, "Oh bugger."
Oh, bugger.
Yeah. Okay, she might have yelled it. She would later testify that she heard Lizzie laughing immediately after this. She did not see Lizzie, but stated that the laughter was coming from the top of the stairs. This was considered significant as Abby was already dead by this time, and her body would have been visible to anyone on the home's second floor. Lizzie later denied being upstairs and testified that her father had asked her where Abby was, to which she replied that a messenger had delivered Abby a summons to visit a sick friend. By the layout of the house, like, it's very visible.
You can
Like,
see all
you can see, yeah. You can.
It was almost like I don't want to say shotgun style, but it was very similar. Like,
yeah.
you can see from one end to
Very
the other,
open.
and very open.
Yeah, it's very open.
You'd be able to see Abby laying on the floor.
Yes.
If you were at the top of the stairs.
Yeah. So Lizzie was the first to find her father's dead body. He had been bludgeoned to death while apparently sleeping on the sofa, and his face was almost beyond recognition. Bridget was in her third floor room resting from cleaning the windows when just before 11:10 a.m. she heard Lizzie call from downstairs. "Maggie, come quick. Father's dead. Somebody came in and killed him." Bridget ran to fetch Dr. Bowen and a neighbor named Adelaide Churchill. Bridget and Adelaide discovered Abby Borden in an upstairs guest bedroom. She was also dead and her head badly beaten. Death in both cases was caused by someone wielding a small, sharp hatchet. Andrew was slumped on a couch in the downstairs sitting room, struck 10 or 11 times with a hatchet-like weapon. One of his eyes had been split cleanly in two, suggesting that he had been asleep when he was attacked. His still bleeding wounds suggested a very recent attack. Dr. Bowen, the family's physician, arrived from his home across the street and pronounced both victims dead. Isn't that weird that, like, your doctor would live across the street from you?
Yeah,
like,
he just came right on over.
yeah, it's like, oh, let me just go run and get the doctor. Like, he's right over there across the street.
I think that's why Andrew liked that area, though, like near the industrial park, because it was near like the center of town.
Right.
So and they
Everything's
were, like, on
right
a main
there.
street.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything's right there. It wasn't far from
Yeah.
anybody, you know.
At the time of Andrew's death, his estate was valued at $300,000. In today's money, that's well over $10 million. I was going to say that's a grip of money.
Yeah. That's right now. That's a grip of money. You know.
The police were soon summoned to the scene, who searched for evidence of an intruder and found none. They also looked for a murder weapon, and in the basement they found 2 hatchets, 2 axes, and a hatchet head with a broken handle. The hatchet head was suspected of being the murder weapon, as the break in the handle appeared fresh. Curiously, they didn't find any blood anywhere except on the victims' bodies. That's the thing that has always tripped me out about this story, is the lack of body fluids.
Yes. Isn't that crazy? Like, I know there's some theories that she took off all her clothes and got naked to kill them. There's other, like, she wasn't the one who did it, obviously, is one of them. But
I mean,
but why isn't there stuff
if you're going to
splattered,
axe, exactly, if you're axing somebody, like, there's got to be blood spatter of some sort.
or even you're axing them, there's blood on the weapon. It's not dripping as you're walking
Exactly.
to wherever you're going to. There's
Yep.
no trail of blood.
And how do you just clean that up. Like there's got to be smears, and I know there's no like DNA and all that stuff back then, and there was none of that. But
Yeah.
but still, I just feel like it would be hard to carry all that out and clean it all up
And not have any blood on your hair,
Nothing.
because hitting with an hatchet is
It's
really
just gonna-
close. It's not an axe. So if you have an axe, it's longer, so you can see, like,
Yeah.
maybe, even if you're naked, but
it's got to go somewhere.
a short, small hatchet, it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So if Bridget's the first one that comes down the stairs to see you,
Mm-hmm.
you're either all bloody or you're not the one who did it.
Exactly.
Or you're in cahoots
Exactly. Yeah.
with Bridget.
With Bridget.
Yeah.
Or
but-
Maggie or whatever you want to call her for the day.
Yeah. So, this case is very.
Yeah. I'm curious to see people's thoughts on this case since it's such a popular case. I'm
Yeah.
curious to see what people's thoughts are on this. The crime scene quickly became contaminated as it was filled with people other than the police, including journalists and curious neighbors. Could you imagine? Oh yeah, come on in, all y'all neighbors. All like
That the last
Really?
one we did, they had them hold the axe, so yeah, they have them all come in and view the
Yeah.
crime scene. It's like a
it just
little town affair.
exactly.
Like, I don't-
exactly.
Yeah.
Further, the family was given much leeway in cleaning up the house. No one bothered to check Lizzie or Bridget for bloodstains and made only a cursory inspection of her room. The police were later criticized for their lack of diligence. During the police investigation, Abby's body was found cold, indicating that she was attacked first. The coroner estimated sometime between 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. He further concluded that she was facing her killer at the time of the attack, but the first blow struck on the side of the head, causing her to turn and fall face down on the floor, at which time 17 more blows were directed at the back of her head. That's overkill.
I was gonna say, like, that's
That's a
personal.
crime of passion, like, I feel like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Andrew's body was still warm when the police arrived, indicating that he was killed after Abby. The coroner estimated the murder occurred between 10:30 a.m. and 11:10 a.m.
So that's an hour and a half between the attacks. So if it wasn't the two people in the house or one person out of the two in the house, where is this person at? If you can see all of the house from the top of the stairs, you can see from the bottom.
Yeah.
And who sits for an hour and a half waiting for somebody else to arrive?
Yeah.
Unless you're in cahoots with somebody.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
doing it on your own.
On your own,
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. The authorities soon concluded that someone with the Borden home must have committed the murders. Because of her absence, Emma was ruled out, and they seemingly never focused on the maid, Bridget. Their suspicions were turned fully on Lizzie Borden.
And I don't know if we mentioned, but Emma at the time was out of town.
Right. She
So
wasn't even there. So
she wasn't- yeah.
she was never a suspect.
Yeah.
In reconstructing the events of that morning, the investigation found that after breakfast, Andrew Borden and John Morse chatted in the sitting room for almost an hour. Afterward, John left at about 8:45 and Andrew left about 9 a.m. In the meantime, Bridget was washing windows, Abby was cleaning the guest room, vacated by John, and Lizzie was in the dining room ironing. After the day of the murders, Lizzie was very inconsistent with her story, which made the officers very suspicious of her. During police questioning, Lizzie's answers were confusing and contradictory, claiming to have been in various places during the murders. Further, she appeared both erratic and calm. This was explained away by having taken morphine to calm her nerves. Lizzie's neighborhood friend caught her burning a dress. When she confronted her, she stated that she had paint on it, so she had to burn it.
This was actually one of her best friends from across the street. She said she saw her doing this and she asked her, what are you doing? She's like, oh, there's paint on it. I have to burn it. And when she's actually testifying, she's saying that she actually kind of knew when she got the dress, and the dress wasn't that old.
Right.
Like, she remembers, like, when she started wearing it, how, like, she's seen her in it only a couple of times. It wasn't a dress she was wearing all the time. So for her to be burning it, it kind of set off alarms.
And if you got paint on it, like, we'll have just things get dirty or I get bleach on stuff. You still keep, you just like, oh, I'll just work out in the yard in it, or this will just be my sleeping dress, or whatever the case may be.
Especially back then, because it wasn't like they had closets
full
filled.
of, exactly.
with dresses.
Yeah,
and stuff.
so that right there is a little odd for sure.
Yeah, raises a red flag.
Yeah. So Lizzie was arrested on August 11th and was represented by Andrew Jennings, who had long been an attorney for the Borden family. The next day, she entered a plea of not guilty and was transported to the Taunton, Massachusetts jail 8 miles north of Fall River. During the investigation, inquest, and trial, several suspicious events were uncovered. At her inquest, it was found that the day before the murders took place, Lizzie had tried to buy prussic acid, otherwise known as cyanide, from a drugstore, but was denied because a prescription was required. This testimony was suppressed during the trial. You could buy cyanide with a prescription?
Back then, until they started finding out that women
That's
were using
whack.
it to poison people.
That's so
just
crazy,
yeah.
though, you know? On the morning of the murders, Bridget said that when Andrew returned at about 10:30, the lock was jammed and she had to let him in. During this time, she testified that she had heard Lizzie laugh from the top of the stairs. However, Lizzie denied this. Shortly after Andrew came home, he asked where Abby was, and Lizzie replied that she had received a note to visit a sick friend. However, neither a sick friend nor a note to Abby was ever located. Lizzie also said that she had removed Andrew's boots and helped him into his slippers before he lay down on the sofa for a nap. However, when the police found his body, he was wearing shoes. The front door and all the windows on the first floor had been locked. Therefore, the only way to have entered the house was via the kitchen, but the women were in and out of there all morning. If someone had come in, how had he or she managed to commit 2 crimes and escape without attention? It seemed unlikely that Lizzie had not heard anything during the brutal crimes, though Lizzie claimed to have been in the barn loft at the time. The authorities were unconvinced because the barn loft revealed no footprints on the dusty floor, and the stifling heat in the loft would have discouraged anyone from being in there that day. It was also rumored that the victims' wills were missing. Andrew's will likely would have left much of his estate to his wife, who would leave little or nothing to Andrew's daughters. Alternatively, if Abby died first, Andrew's estate would automatically be left to his daughters.
So, hold up. Abby was killed first. Well, they were both dead at that time, so it didn't matter.
yeah.
But still, you know.
Yeah.
Oh no, because no. There's a catch here, because if Andrew would have died first and the estate would have been left to Abby, and then Abby would have been killed, the estate would go to her family.
Her family.
Abby's family.
Abby's family,
not to the daughters.
The daughters, yeah.
So therefore, that's why it was very important that Abby
who died first.
Yeah. And it was apparent by the waiting in time.
Right.
Like, you know, that's why it was.
Yeah, because one body was still cold, or one body was still warm, and the other one was cold.
So it needed to show proof that one was killed before the other. So therefore, the money
would go to them. Despite the accusations, Lizzie Borden was acquitted of the crimes. The jury of men did not believe that a woman could commit such a heinous crime, especially one that taught Sunday school. And remember, back then, women were not allowed to serve on a jury.
No.
So it was it was all men. After the murders, Lizzie and her sister inherited her father's fortune and purchased a home on the hill where the other influential and rich Borden family members lived. However, not soon after, Lizzie had a falling out with her sister Emma, who then moved out of the house, and they never spoke to each other again. Some say it is because Emma found out Lizzie killed her father and stepmother. Others say it was because she had a relationship with the female theater actress Nancy O'Neill, and her sister Emma did not approve of it. Lizzie died on June 1st, 1927 of pneumonia, just days before the death of her sister Emma on June 10th, 1927. Isn't that?
They died within days
Wild.
of each other. I know.
Wild.
Even
9 days apart.
And they didn't even talk
even
to each other
speaking.
on speaking terms. Yeah.
Wild stuff. To this day, her trial is examined and her innocence remains in question. Did Lizzie Borden brutally murder her father and stepmother? There's a YouTube channel. I don't know what it's called. Oh, God. But they actually recreated the trial.
Oh,
And they
that would be
actually
interesting.
it was really, really interesting.
Oh, check that out if you guys haven't checked that
Yeah,
out. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah.
Once she moved up to the hill, it's almost as if some people forgot what she had what she had done. Good Lord. What she had done. And she would have parties there. There was a theater group there that loved her. She would go to the theater all the time, and they would always go back to the house and party with her and stuff. So a lot of people approved, didn't approve.
Yeah.
It was almost like the cases that are now,
I was
where
gonna
they're
say,
torn.
like,
you know?
I mean, Casey Anthony's out walking, roaming the streets, and I'm sure there's people out there that are partying with her too.
Having fun with her. Yeah.
I'm sure.
So she lived there in that house up on the hill until the day she died. She was very active in the community. She gave to a lot of charities. And when she passed away, she had a large amount of money still, large sum of money. And she gave a lot of it to the Humane Society for the animals and stuff.
Yeah.
She was a real big animal lover. The money went to something good.
You go, Lizzie.
So, yeah. So you know what? We're really interested. Put your comments below. Why do you think there was no blood splatter found anywhere?
Yeah.
There's actually another really good YouTube channel out there where he breaks it down and puts it, if it was Lizzie who done it alone, Lizzie who did it with Bridget, Lizzie in cahoots with her Uncle John. Like, there's a lot of different theories out there.
You guys have heard of any other theories? I'd love to hear them too.
Yeah.
Because this has been, obviously a lot of people have been very into this case for many, many years. So I'm sure there's a bunch of different things swirling around out there in the universe. So, well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
For another week. Thank you for putting up with us for the last few weeks while I've been out and about and the quality and everything. So we apologize, but we're back now.
Yes.
We're back. We're here. Let us know, because I was talking to Shannon about just different kinds of content. Like, what would you guys like to hear more of? Stories like this of hauntings, because, we put these up and people seem to be really excited about them.
It's a guessing game. What are you going to get next week?
Yeah, exactly. You never know. It's going to be true crime. We're going to haunt somebody.
Is it going to be a dance show, a comedy show? What's Shannon going to do next? I don't know. Stay tuned.
Trust me, guys, you never know. You're never going to know. I don't know. It's literally just like flying by the seat of your pants. So, yeah. And again, if you guys have any cases or things that you would like us to, any topics that you would like us to cover, please, you can DM us on Instagram at 50 States of Madness. You can message us here on YouTube, TikTok. Absolutely. Yeah, whatever you'd like. Pick up one of these cool hoodies at, not you. Yeah, pick up one of these cool hoodies and other merch at 50statesofmadness.bigcartel.com.
Thank you so much for your support.
Okay.
See you next week.
And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.